This is Andrea Chase, and I'm talking with Shlomi Elkabetz about Gett, the trial of Viviane Amsalem, a film about ancient law clashing with modern sensibilities. The trial in question is that of the divorce for the title character, who, as the film begins, has been living apart from her husband, Elisha, for 3 years. She desperately wants her freedom from a man who has made her miserable, but this being Israel, she cannot obtain it without his consent, which he refuses to give. The trial drags on for years as Elisha flouts the court's authority, the 3 judges involved parse everything except Viviane's feelings, and the parade of witnesses range from the tragic to the absurd. The film stars Ronit Elkabetz, Simon Abkarian, Menashe Noy, and Sasson Gabay, who we saw in The Band's Visit. Shlomi co-directed from a script he co-wrote with his sister Ronit. Their previous work includes To Take a Wife and Shiva, and on his own testimony, he is the artistic director of Studio South, the production lab of the Cinema South Film Festival, and he has taught cinema for over a decade at Sapir College and the Minshar Academy. And this is a side of Israel we don't hear much about in this country. We think of Israel as being so progressive. This was a country that had, for example, women in its military from the very beginning. These religious laws, they're astounding to me. They apply to everybody, but does everyone abide by them?
Yeah, everybody must abide by these laws. I mean, whether you're religious, Orthodox, or completely secular or atheists, you have to abide by this law. I mean, if you want to get a divorce in Israel today and you're a woman, you must have your husband say yes. If he doesn't say yes, you cannot get the divorce. It's simple as that. That's it. There is no other law to protect you as a woman. There is no other way, alternative way to get a divorce today in Israel. So I can say that maybe 60 to 70% of the divorces in Israel are easy divorces because the husband and the wife wants to get a divorce. But what happens with the other 30%? What happens with thousands of women who are waiting to get a divorce? Some of them wait for like 20 years.
I'm dumbfounded by that. Why do women not rise up in protest over this?
Amazing, no? It's amazing. How would you, when we wrote the script, we said, how come nobody spoke about it so far? How come this subject was like under the carpet for so many years, I think there's few things. When you go to get married, you don't think about your divorce. You think about how beautiful life is going to be with my kids, with my gown, with my suit, with my music, with the food at the wedding party. I mean, you don't think about the negative stuff. You don't think of what might be your destiny if you want to get a divorce. This is like one of the things. Second is these courts are closed. These trials are happening in closed doors, meaning you cannot enter to see a court like this. And it takes it out of the awareness of people. If even one person in the history of Israel could go into these courts and be a witness, somebody to see, not to participate, because it's a different experience, and could tell and could write something about it, then the whole experience would have been completely different. So there is no way you could be a witness to a court like this. So the film, in a way, is a key, and it opens these doors of these courts. By the way, you can see murder trials and stuff like this, you can, but not a divorce trial.
Well, that's secular. This is religious. This is the Bet Din.
Yeah, this is the Bet Din, the religious court. And then there is something that has to do, I think, with the definition of who is Israeli. Because, the state of Israel in the declaration certificate that was manifested 60 and some years ago is defined as a place for the Jewish people, meaning in order to be privileged to become an Israeli citizen, if you were not there before, you have to be Jewish. And then you have to determine who is Jewish. And, one of the ways to determine is you go through the stages: birth, marriage, divorce, and death. And those are the 4 stages that you must go through the religious authorities in Israel, and that's how you determine who is Jewish.
They do not mention this when they talk about the right of return in this country. I am just telling you, we don't hear about this.
All right, yeah.
The 3 rabbis in this case who are sitting in judgment, they strike me as being Ashkenazi, whereas Viviane and Elisha are not. Is that a subtlety that we might miss in this country?
2 of them are Ashkenazi, and then the one that's sitting on the left is a Moroccan descent, is coming from a Moroccan background. Even though we say he's disguised to an Ashkenazi rabbi because the cultural hegemony in Israel is Ashkenaz, and then also for the religious people, people who came from the Maghreb countries, from Morocco, Syria, had also to wear these clothes that are from Lita, from Russia, these clothes of rabbis. Because if the rabbis from Morocco would wear what they have to wear, it would be like a kaftan or a jalabia, that's how the rabbis in Morocco used to dress. So one of them is Moroccan. And then, of course, in all our films, there is a strong sense of political awareness of where do you come from. To live as what we call like an Arab Jew, which is like me. In Israel, I'm an Arab Jew, because my parents were born and married in an Arab country. And to come to Israel, it means that you are actually connected in a way to the language, the culture, the sound, the smell, the food, the air of the enemy, because this is the culture of the enemy. And then in a very strict way, you have to erase your sources in order to become an Israeli. Some of the Ashkenaz will tell you, we also had to stop speaking Yiddish because it's also considered an exile language and you have to speak Hebrew. It's true, but then you could still go to the Philharmonic and listen to some classical music that they used to hear. And then for the people who come from an Arab origin, they didn't have this culture surrounding them. So, of course, the film also talks, and all the trilogy talks about the subtleties within the Israeli society, about who's black, who's white, and what kind of rights you have.
Yeah, I want to talk a little about Shiva, which we see these same actors playing characters with very similar names as part of the looking at a marriage in trouble. Are they the same characters? Because the names are a little different.
You mean in the trilogy?
Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll explain why the names are different. When we decided to make the trilogy, it was like 12 years ago, and we said we're going to tell 3 steps in one woman searching for her liberty. The first one will be between her and herself, meaning whether she believes she can be free, and the concept of freedom. Freedom is not like an apple that you buy in the supermarket. You really have to acquire freedom, and so this is one of the stages that you have to go through. The second one was Viviane and what we say, the Chamula, the big family or the society. She has to break through, not only her, all the women in the film has to break through this barrier and to search for their liberty. And when they go through this barrier, they go to the last frontier, which is the state, the law. So now it's Viviane and the law. And I should say that the character of Viviane is very much inspired by our mother. So the first film that we did is not an autobiographical film, but it has a lot of biographical elements in it. And at a certain point, our family, not my mother, but the large family that we're trying to break through, was condemning us and did not talk with us for a few years because, in the first film, we used the real brothers of my mother. We gave them an acting class for 6 months, and then they played in the film. The second film was much more complicated, so we didn't take them, but we kept their names. And then the people who know them put the story that we invented on them, and nobody believed it's not their story, and they were very mad with us, so we were condemned. So for the third film, we decided to change the names in order to protect the family in a way, or to say to everyone, okay, it's the same characters, but listen, this is an invented story. Our mother never stepped foot in court, so we say sometimes, Ronit and I, that by writing the trilogy, we are writing the imaginative, wishful life that our mother maybe would have had. Because my parents are still married and they live together, so...
Oh, happily?
Happily? 55 years of marriage. I don't know. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
It's very complicated.
You can never know what's going on inside a marriage, even when you're living with them.
Yeah, the court is trying to do this for half a film.
Yeah, that's what, and I love in this film that we only see these characters in the court. We do not see them outside. We hear about their marriage in front of judges and from other people. Restricting yourself in that way, what are the advantages? And what are the disadvantages?
It's a huge advantage, and in a way that you're restricted. You're restricted. But you know that within those 4 walls, within this very simple story, I want to get a divorce, and he says no. There is an immense amount of liberty of action, because then right, I can do whatever I want within these 4 walls, whatever I want. But then, of course, coming into the shoot, we understood that we have a huge challenge because it's a film and we want to say something. It's true and it's radical and it can be political, but we want to have people being involved in the film. We want to engage them. We want to make them cry and laugh. We want to make them angry. We want their actions. We want their involvement in the film. And then we started to think of how do we really managed to create this suspense, to create this tension within the film, which without the film will not hold. And if the film doesn't hold, anything else is not important, because then people don't watch the film. And we wanted people to see the film. We wanted people to be there with the film. So we took few decisions. Some of them were completely conceptual, meaning like, every time we went to shoot, we thought, what kind of day is it outside? Is it rainy? Is it summer? Is it cloudy? Is it noon? Is it morning? Is it before evening? What's happening outside? And then we structured a full script light for this film. We lighted the whole film from the outside, and then everything you see in the film is a conflict between the court neon and what's happening outside. And that was very complicated to do and to achieve, but we went through this mission. Same thing we did with the sounds. We actually created a full script that's happening outside of the court. And then we recorded this full script. The sound work was like long 5 months of sound work. And all this was implanted into the film as well. So we had these two exterior elements that are so strong in the film. And then we decided not to take a director's shot in this film, meaning we only shoot from the point of view of the characters. The camera is always placed in a place where somebody is looking at someone or being looked by someone, to create this internal tension between the characters. And not only that, to say that the court is not objective, it's completely subjective, and there is only people in this court, and there's only relationship in this court, and there's always somebody that is trying to gain something and to see what's happening to someone else. And by that, we also managed to stretch the space, meaning if I shoot myself, or if I shoot you talking to somebody else, you relate to the one you're talking to, but you must relate to my camera. And then I stretch the space into different direction. I stretch the actor, and then I stretch him from another direction, and then from another point of view. Eventually, I spread and deconstruct the room again in each shot that I'm shooting, trying to maintain the suspense in this court drama, from one look to another. We say that we shot two films. One was the film with the dialogue, and then we shot a silent film. For every film, it's true that there is dialogue in the film, but then we really shot an extra silent film, which was the main of the shoot, to shoot the looks of the people. So it made us very very creative in that sense, because we really had, we said, wow, we have so much to do. At the same time, we could have shot for every scene 70 different point of views, but we had to take 10 or 12 and to be really precise about what we're trying to say.
The way you shot it, and by focusing on these people and their emotions, it is the most emotionally engaging and suspenseful film I've seen in a long time. It's easy to shoot a gun or have a car crash, but to have someone sitting there waiting for 3 years and the look on her face as she's saying, it's not going to happen. I do want to talk about one remarkable sequence, and this is a close-up of Ronit's face, and it's silent, but it's very vivid and very active. She's going through a lot of emotions, and I would love you to, anything you want to tell me about coming up with that scene and shooting that scene and lighting that scene, because I'm convinced the light changed, although it could just be her face.
No, but the light doesn't change.
It is her face.
But when shooting the film, because it was part of a trilogy, we thought we want to communicate. The films are independent. You could watch each one of the films separately. You don't have to watch them in order to understand or to have some kind of an experience, emotional or intellectual experience. But for us, it is a part of a trilogy, and we wanted to connect the trilogy in different ways for people who do see. And the way we could do it is through the cinema, not through the story, not through the narrative. And we have this opening shot in To Take a Wife. It's a 4-minute shot of Ronit at the beginning of the film. She's sitting in the kitchen. We don't know it's the kitchen because it's a close-up, and all the brothers are talking to her and say, go back to your husband, he will never give you a divorce, and so on. That was 10 years ago when we shot To Take a Wife. And we said we want to have one shot that relates to this film and relates to the struggle of Viviane throughout the years. And let's shoot this shot and see what we do with it. And we took it at the end of one of the days. It was still light outside, but we decided to close the curtains of the court and to light Ronit's face with the clean neon light, a very simple neon light, and to see what happens to Ronit. We took a 16-minute shot. In the film you have a minute and a half. But we took this shot, and at a certain point, looking at this shot, something amazing happened to me. At this moment that I picked for the film, I felt like I can see, maybe it's bizarre what I'm saying, but for me, I saw that I can look at Ronit's history from childhood to being a woman. I saw this thing happening. All of a sudden, something, like I see her as a little child. I think that what happened is not that I saw her life, but something happened there that enabled me to engage with her thoughts, to engage with her history, and I see, and she's a woman, and she's a girl, and she's a baby girl, and she's a married woman, and she's a bachelor, and she's like this, and she's that, and she's like all these things together, and it comes up to this one point where this whole thing, which is life of one woman, becomes like a shot in a court, and she's restricted, and she's within the frame, and she's cut within the frame, and she's being treated in a very brutal way by my camera as well, and I'm locking her within this four borders of the frame, these four walls, and this thing that you're waiting to document when you're shooting a film happened at this moment, and then I decided to use this shot. I added some sound on it. It's like, the keyboard, and I hear the sounds of the court. It's like a scene, it's a scene. She's waiting for her sentence. She's waiting. And then I decided to use this shot just in the cut after the rabbis told her, you should put your hair together. Put your hair together, they say, You cannot be with your hair open here. And then she's back again, to this, we call it in Hebrew, we say, when you take a passport shot of someone, we call it a murder shot, because usually it's not like the light is on your face, the neon, you're like waiting to get this shot, and like always in your passport picture, you're like surprised, or like,
Yeah, we call it a mugshot.
A mugshot, yeah. It's like cruel mugshot of Viviane, it's like.
And yet she's so transcendently beautiful in that shot too, and it conveys so much that if you tried to write dialogue for that, it would just fall so flat and seem so artificial.
Actually, it's funny that you say that, because we had in the film, at a certain moment, the rabbis ask Viviane, why did you marry him? And then Viviane wants to reply, but she cannot. And then we gave a dialogue to the advocate of Viviane, and she said, you want to know why? I'll tell you why. And then there's like a 5 minutes part of the film that we shot. And it tells Viviane's story from birth until today. He really tells the judges how she got married. She was not forced, but she was engaged while she was 13, and what kind of life she had, and so on and so on. And then in the film, when we edited the film, we cut all this out, and we just left Viviane's answer. She asked, why did you get married if you don't like him? And she says, why? I don't know. We got married.
And it's the culture too. I mean, you don't say no. This is how it's done, and
yeah, it's true. It doesn't matter why we got married. What matters now is that I want to get a divorce. And what can you do for me? How can you help me? That's what matters.
Give us a sense of how really brave and tenacious a woman like this has to be to ask for a divorce and to want to be a divorced woman in her community.
I say that women in Israel are waiting, not from the moment they apply in court. They are waiting since the first time this thought of wanting to get a divorce appears in their life, meaning she thinks, okay, I want to get a divorce. The minute she understands the power that the husband has on her, she's being terrorized, so he can ask for anything. He can ask for the house, for the economical situation, for custody for the kids. He can ask for anything, he has so much power in his hands, so much, he's so strong, so from that moment and on, she starts to wait, she might wait 1 year or 2 years before she puts it out, or putting it out meaning go to court and say, I want to get a divorce. And then maybe it's easy. Maybe the husband say, yeah, I want to get a divorce. So she was waiting for 2 years. And then, but maybe he says no. And then what happens? And then how strong you are, how far you're willing to go if your husband says no. There are women who are waiting for, as I said, for 5, 6, 10, 15, and 20 years in the extreme. But you have to be like a very, very persistent person. You have to be strong. You have to believe that you'll get what you want, and you have to pursue it, and you have to be strong, and you have to go through the way. It can be a very, very complicated way. Viviane is a progressive character. She progresses. She waits for the opportunity, and that's what's fascinating for us in Viviane for the last 12 years when we did the trilogy. She's never stuck. The film may be stuck. Viviane is not stuck. The film may be dark in a way. Even when it's funny, it's dark, and it's funny a lot of times, but it's dark. But Viviane is not dark. Viviane is progressive. Viviane sees ahead all the time. She sees ahead, and she's pulling the film with her. She's pulling us with her through this belief, because we see her again and again. And sometimes people laugh when there's a cut in the film, and it's just like 2 months later and we see Viviane, and people laugh because they don't believe this woman is still waiting, and this woman is still willing to come to this court, you know. And I interpreting their laugh as like they're like infatuated by this woman eventually. You know, many people ask me, why does she need this paper, you know, because she can live outside of the house, and she's been there for 3 years. And when we started the film, when we say she's free, she left the house 3 years ago, and like, why does she need this paper? So I say that if she wants to remarry, she needs this paper. If she wants the custody to be lawful, she needs this paper. If she wants to have kids and she doesn't want the kids to be bastard and be out of the Jewish community for 10 generations, she needs this paper. There's so many liable reasons why she would want this paper on one hand, but then just thinking about the concept of liberty, meaning in order to be free, it's not enough. It's not enough to say, I'm free. Okay, Viviane can see herself as a free person, but in order to acquire freedom, which is not a product, it's a state of mind, it's a state of society, she needs the society to see her as a free woman, because then the two elements can meet, the way you see yourself and the way others see you. And in that place, freedom can occur. And that's why Viviane needs this paper. Gett is the paper that you've been given when you get the divorce. And that's why she needs this paper. One woman asked me last week in Hamburg, I presented the film, and she asked me, why does she need the paper? And so I said, you know what, if it's so easy, let's, between us, say that from now on in Hamburg, women will have to get the consent of their husband if they want to be free. You could do whatever you want, but still you need your husband's agreement. Are you willing to go? And she was shocked. She says, no. That's why, no, you want to be able to decide what you want to do with your life, as long as you're not hurting anyone else.
Has this trilogy had any effect on women's consciousness and maybe starting a movement to change some of this? I know a religious law, it's very entrenched, it's very difficult.
Religious law will never change. You know, if we change religious law, we say there's no God. You know, these laws were written.
Yeah, but it's also how we interpret them, and that's something that's in the film.
It's an interpretation that can occur, but I can tell you that today in Israel, amazing things are happening. Really amazing things. Since the film is out, it's like 10 days. A lot of people are coming to see the film. A lot, like, you know, I'm not allowed to say the number now.
Okay, okay.
But it's phenomenal in that sense that, like, you really cannot get a ticket. People are coming to see the film, and it is like the talk of the day on so many levels. And like, for example, the Minister of Justice just wrote a huge post in her Facebook regarding the film and what she thinks should be done. Many parliament members say Gett should go to the Oscars. Gett should be seen by every Israeli. Gett should be seen by people around the world in order to maintain pressure from outside and inside. You know, I get this huge support from governmental members and parliament members, and it's quite amazing. Like, next month we're going to have this huge convention organized by the Rachman Institute in Bar Ilan, headed by the Minister of Justice and 400 marital lawyers. We're going to participate and create this like huge debate around it. So the film is talking, and the film is like, it's boiling. It's not only under the surface, it's like now it's above the surface, and we're waiting, you know. It's like, it's amazing.
The Minister of Justice is a woman.
She's a woman.
Let's just make a point of saying that.
Yes. Actually, all the parliament members who wrote posts on their Facebook and published them were women.
And this is a country, Golda Meir, she was the prime minister, and yet we still have this law. It's a fascinating contradiction, which I hope you have fixed with this film.
I wish, but you know, it's amazing because the film is very critical, and it's critical about the law, not about the characters, because we try not to judge, not Elisha, not the judges, not Viviane, of course, but the system. And it's like, you know, one of the cases where not only the system is willing to be criticized, but the system is rising and criticizing itself, not only by the artist, but by the system itself. And that's really amazing. And if it would change something, then we will be the roof of the world.
I want to ask one kind of a silly question, though.
Sure.
At one point in the trial, we see that Viviane has chosen a very particular kind of footwear, and she has chosen to wear nail polish. Is this extremely shocking in that context, or not?
Viviane lives throughout the trial, you know. I want you to know that in between the trial, Viviane went to do her manicure. Viviane she's a beautiful woman, but it's not only beautiful because the way we define beauty. Viviane wants to live. She's not being shut down by the system. On the contrary, she does whatever she did before, you know. And I shot these fits a few times throughout the film to say that one of these days his boots are going to walk all over you. It's like, I want to show you that this woman has feet and they're beautiful and they're going to rise and she's going to walk and she's going to walk, and hopefully she's not going to crush you when she walks all over you, but I want to make sure that the audience like are waiting for this feet to rise and to walk, and these legs are waiting to do that. And you know, when we got the Academy Award in Israel last week, she said, yes, this prize is wonderful, thanks for the Academy members, and it's a personal prize, and it's beautiful to get it, but more than that, it's a victory of the spirit for so many women, thousands of women who are waiting to get up and walk. So, yeah.
Shlomi Elkabetz, thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for the interview.
The film is Gett, The Trial of Viviane Amsalem, and I'm Andrea Chase.